this government style would last for more than twice that, nearly 3 times that. Okay? That is a dynasty in its own right. And this Yoritomo guy, I mean, that's like a testament to his intellect to begin with. A very, very smart guy. He decided that, again, rather than fight with these people in the imperial court, he decided he would work with them. But the way he set it up was they were a figurehead over him. And he was the actual seat of power. The actual ruler was the shogunate. But the imperial court was above them and, made it official, etc. Why is that significant? Jumping back a little bit in Japanese history, the first writing that I'm aware of in Japan's history was commissioned by a female empress who had a court scribe, essentially, write the history of Japan. And in that writing, the scribe attributed the origin of the imperial family to being godlike, descendants of the gods. Best as I understand it, demigods, kind of like if Hercules became an emperor and had children. So when it comes to the understanding of the imperial family, especially in ancient Japan, and I think in some ways to this day, certain parts of the culture are influenced by a great reverence for their imperial family, in that they are, or at least they were, believed to have been kami, or kami adjacent, kami light, half kami, 50-50, half and half, kind of thing. So, that being said, unlike the Taira clan, the guy that was leading the Minamoto clan realized it's probably not the best look to the general public and trying to get them to accept my authority and leadership if I'm sitting here killing off the gods, right? So instead, again, he gave them a authority as the imperial court by making a deal with them that was essentially, look, you guys live, you continue to be the imperial court, be the rich people, be the, the head of the country, yada, yada, yada. But I'm the seat of power. And it was brilliant for what it was. And again, the time it lasted just shows that, honestly. And what it took to break it, again, shows that. So, let's keep going. So as we said, he decided to rule in concert with the imperial court in Kyoto. Legitimacy was conferred on the shogunate by the imperial court, but the shogunate was the de facto rulers of the country. The court maintained bureaucratic and religious functions, and the shogunate welcomed participation by members of the aristocratic class. The older institutions remained intact in a weakened form, and Kyoto remained the official capital. So again, this shadow government sort of setup, I don't want to say that in the sense that it wasn't just like sneaky or what may have you, but it was certainly done in a way that allowed the general public to perceive them as respecting the gods. And again, the imperial court still held the religious, I don't want to say religious power, but certainly the religious relevance that they held prior. But in this way, the power was with the shogunate. Yoritomo, again, took over in 1185, and he didn't live that long. He actually died in 1199. The office of the shogun weakened. Behind the scenes, Yoritomo's wife, Hojo Masako, became the true power behind the government. In 1203, her father, Hojo Tokimasa, was appointed regent to the then shogun, Yoritomo's son, Minamoto no Sanetomo. Henceforth, the Minamoto shoguns became puppets of the Hojo regents who wielded the actual power. Now, we're talking about the Hojo era, and I want to point out again that despite Minamoto being the dominant family here, and despite that Yoritomo Minamoto was certainly a person of consequence, especially in the direction of the country, the direction of history, the impact that one single person had on an entire country was absolutely fascinating. That being said, it's not called the Yoritomo era. It's not called the Minamoto era or any of that. It's called the Kamakura period, for one, and that's the region where they set up the shogunate. So Kamakura. Now that's not to be confused for where the imperial seat of power was. The imperial throne was still in Kyoto, but Kamakura is where the shogunate was set up. With all that in mind, why do we have this Hojo era? This era that runs from shortly after Minamoto Yoritomo finally gets to take over and unite Japan for one of the first times. Shortly after, he ends up dying, and even though he's the one that set up the style of government that would run straight through to 1865 until the imperial government would take back over, we still don't call this the Minamoto period. But we have a Hojo era. So what happened? How did that happen? Hojo, if you haven't put it together, is it's a family name. It's a clan name. And the Hojo clan, the dad thought that his daughter was way too good for this, no good, no status having, failed family being Minamoto guy, Yoritomo Minamoto, with all these big ideas and big promises of grandeur. So he absolutely forbade them getting together. He didn't want anything to do with them. He didn't want his daughter to have anything to do with Yoritomo. And yet and still, she didn't care. She loved him. She went to be with him. That was her man. And that was just all there was to it. So Yoritomo had just set up this government where the shogunate has the power, but they worked together with the imperial court, which doesn't have the power, but does have a role as a figurehead. And he made them into a figurehead. They got to keep all the perks without any of the responsibilities, or the vast majority of the responsibilities and the real power. So honestly, at least as far as it was concerned at that time, the imperial court could not have asked for a better outcome right there. And again, being the political genius that he was for his time, Yoritomo knew this, and he knew what he could get away with, and he did it. He did exactly what he intended to do there. You fast forward, and Masako, which from what I can tell, Yoritomo's wife, nobody actually knows her name. It's believed anyway that Masako is not actually her name. They call her Masako because Masa is the last part of her father's name, and Ko means child. So she's essentially Masa's child, and that's where Masako comes from. When her husband dies, she has a certain level of power, but before that power can really transfer to their oldest son, Yorie, if I recall correctly, her dad, rather, steps in, and he's like, hey, somebody's got to run this thing, and that guy's a kid. He's not going to be able to do this. Obviously, he needs somebody to be an advisor to him to help run the country and manage things, And so he creates a title. In Japanese, it is Shikken. In English, the English version of it would be like regent, chief advisor, chief counselor. Just imagine pretty much most movies set in older time periods, be they ancient England with the king's advisor, be it Aladdin with Jafar. That same sort of slimy actual power person that pretends to be serving the king. That role is essentially what this guy takes over. And regardless as to whether or not he always intended it to be that way, which I feel like he did, again, when his daughter married this guy that he despised and didn't want anything to do with, he didn't waste time taking over power as soon as that guy died. And he set up his own style of government by virtue where he kind of takes over Yoritomo's idea and takes it up a notch. It was the perfect timing for it. It could not have been better circumstances. The shogun dies, and his son is just a little too young to be convincing for that role. So he takes over, and he's the regent, or Shikken, and he sets it up to where the real power is in the regent to the shogun. So what we have here is essentially two figureheads. There's the figurehead of the imperial court. Then there's the figurehead below that of the shogun, which used to be where the power rested, but the power no longer rests there, and it won't rest there again until 1333 AD. The power now resides with the Shikken, and it should be noted that the Shikken, throughout all of history, this is one role in one time period in Japan, in that country, and it only describes a specific set of people, because the way it was set up, the only Shikkens to ever exist were of the Hojo clan. So they kind of set up a monopoly on that role and completely took it over. So you end up with a situation where, as you look through the time period, all the way through to 1333 AD, you've got some Hojo something, right, as a Shikken in that role. So anyway, Masako's father takes over. And he starts getting upset because he's supposed to be the power as far as he's concerned. But his grandson, Masako's older son and eldest son, is starting to get older. And first off, he marries a woman that the Shikken advised against. She was of a different clan, and she would take his attentions elsewhere. But Yorie still went on and married that woman, and decided he would rather take his grandfather off of the role of Shikken and put the father of the woman he married in that role. And they were kind of coming together with a plan on how to do that. And that's when Hojo Masako, his mom, realized what was going on. And she, thinking that she would be the dutiful daughter, went and told her father. And her father went ahead and captured his own grandson, imprisoned him, or to an extent, and killed everybody else, massacred that entire clan. And then not long after, his grandson is murdered. Oh my goodness, what a surprise. How did that happen? So he kind of got rid of his competition right there. And he also got rid of his obstinate grandson. And stepping into the scene is his younger grandson, the second son of Masako and Yoritomo. That one is a lot more pliable. He's had a lot more time with him. He's also kind of grown up in a world where the Shikken is a thing. Didn't really know his dad as much because he was much younger when his dad died. So far easier to deal with, far more pliable. So he's got what he's looking for there. However, unfortunately, he killed Masako's son. She didn't forget that. And she never forgave him for that. And her brother decided they didn't want anything to do with what he had become, especially when he decided that the second born son should also have to die because he felt like he was starting to, do as young boys do and start to have his own ideas, starting to get above it, get to a certain age. Before that second son could be killed, Masako and her brother went and confronted their dad, and they were like, look, either you abdicate or we're going to rebel. And it's essentially step down or die. That was it. And after a little bit of time, their father eventually stepped down, went and became a monk, shaved his head, yada, yada, yada. I don't know that he ever regained his relationship with them or any sort of trust with them. And to be honest with you, the way that he became, it wouldn't surprise me if he didn't. When it comes to the fact that the Hojo family took over, because they view dogs favorably and due to the type of stability that they offered in that time, dogs in general and things to be done with dogs actually flourished. And while I can't, draw a direct line between them and a given Tosa or them and a given dog in that time, I can say that this is, again, one of the first times we start to see the Tosa in history. Thank you guys so very much for checking out our channel, for watching our videos. I hope I wasn't too boring. Thank you for following us or watching us. If you do not already follow us, please follow. If you have not liked this video, please like, and please subscribe, and you'll be able to keep up with the next videos we put out about Tosas. We love what we do here. There'll definitely be more videos, and you can learn a bit more about the breed, learn a bit more about us, and hopefully it'll be stuff that you'll find useful. One other thing I would say is that if you can, please share our information. I know a lot of people will say share, but for us it's actually more important. You may not know this, but the Tosa is what we might consider an endangered species here in the US and even in the West. I would say the place that the place that the Tosa is right now is not unlike the place where the pit bull was in the mid-50s throughout the 70s, in that they no longer are used for their original purpose here in the US, thank God. They are not used for their original purpose. So that kind of leaves a vacuum. The breed's notoriety is going down in that vacuum, but what that opens the door for is for bad actors to get a hold of what remaining specimens there are and use them for, we'll say, nefarious purposes. And when it comes to it, this is a wonderful breed. We just barely got the pit bull to where it's like 50-50 publicity, right? I'd hate for the Tosa to be the next dog everybody hates. So please share as much as you can. Get the information out there about the breed. It took so long for the pit bull to make a comeback, not because of breeding and responsible breeding practice. No, there's always been people that have been breeding pit bulls responsibly. You know, what it took was having people in their corner, advocates, people who could stand up and say, that's not the way pit bulls act in reality. That's a dog that's been abused. That's a dog that's been mistreated. That's a dog that's been mistrained. And that can happen to any breed, you know? And the more that those people get out there, the more you see the pit bull coming out in a better light, you know? Unfortunately, it's still got a long way to go, but that was the change. And the same thing is true for the Tosa. We need people who are going to get out there and say, hey, look, that behavior right there, that's not a Tosa. This, that, the other thing, that's not Tosa behavior. This is an example of an unfortunate set of circumstances that befell an individual dog. It is not what is to be expected of the breed as a whole. So when it comes to it, I think it's super important that you share, even more than liking and subscribing, which would be awesome. But share so that the information gets out there and more people learn the truth about the Tosa. All of it, not just the fighting past, but where they are today and where they're heading. Hopefully, more people will see this, more people will share, and the information will be out there. Again, you don't necessarily have to want to get a Tosa yourself, but learn about the breed. We need more advocates. Hopefully, some people watching this will find that true and become an advocate for this wonderful, amazing breed. Thank you guys so much for your time. We'll let you go and enjoy your life and let Mr. Dante get on to his kibble for the day.